Welcome to Northwest Profiles, a look at people, places, and events of interest in the inland Northwest.
The day was April 27th, 1957. On the surface, it appeared to be just another cool and overcast early spring day on British Columbia's beautiful Kootenay Lake. Yet as history would have it, this would be no ordinary day, for this day on the lake would mark the end of an era. With her whistle resonating through the mountains of Canada's western Kootenay region, the steam-powered sternwheeler known as the SS Moyie embarked on her final run, serving the many shoreside communities along the vast Kootenay Lake. One of those who witnessed the event firsthand was Jack Morris.
Oh, that was a big day. She pulled into the bay here and just blew that old whistle, and everybody in town seemed to be down on the wharf to say goodbye to her, and a lot of us were on as passengers, and we pulled into every little whistle stop where they pulled into in the earlier days, and there'd be somebody down there with a bouquet, a wreath or a bouquet of flowers and a few farewell words to the crew.
The obvious affection Jack had for the old boat was a common sentiment among all those who lived along the Kootenay. For them, the retirement of the SS Moyie meant saying goodbye to an old and trusted friend, a friend that, after being launched in 1898, had served the Kootenay region well for almost 60 years, the longest service record of any sternwheeler in Canada.
It was the only transportation in those days. I mean, when these boats first started, there weren't the roads around here, and there was no way of moving the freight like it. They were the lifeblood of all the people that lived up and down the lakes, because these boats could just pull up on the beach and land anybody wherever they wanted to be. The Moyie had several careers. I mean, it first started on different runs up the lake, and she was going pretty well all the time. She was either pushing barges or, which she wasn't really designed for. For many years, she was the freight boat. She carried all the barging and the railroad cars ahead of her. She was really doing a job that was for a tug to do, not what she did. So she was really abused the last number of years.
Fortunately, as the Moyie neared retirement in the spring of 1957, there were those who were interested in her fate. One happened to be Jack Morris, who aspired to preserve the old steamer in the small farming and mining community of Kaslo, BC.
My role in the Moyie was that I was president of the Chamber of Commerce back in the days when the Moyie was running, and I was also on the city council here, and we got word that they were going to retire the Moyie. As I had been traveling on the Moyie since I was a small boy, I wanted to see it didn't get destroyed like all the other boats had. I had an old friend by the name of Noel Backus, who was my secretary of my Chamber of Commerce, and he and I decided we were going to see that the Moyie was saved.
To procure the retired sternwheeler, Jack and Noel knew they would first have to convince the Moye's owner, the Canadian Pacific Railway, that the small community of Kaslo had both the resources and expertise to preserve the old steamer. In less than 2 months, with money raised through the formation of the Kootenay Lake Historical Society and a grant from the provincial government of British Columbia, the city of Kaslo raised $10,000 in support of the Moye's preservation effort. On May 1st, 1957, the Canadian Pacific, now assured the Moyie would be in good hands, agreed to sell the aging steamer to the community of Kaslo for $1. Just over a year later, the city would officially receive its new old boat when the SS Moyie was pulled sideways out of the water onto beautiful beach property once occupied by a grand hotel. The highly engineered and celebrated grounding would, at last, set a new course for the SS Moyie from an active steamship to a static museum. Today, with the passage of nearly 4 decades of shifting sand beneath her, the SS Moyie still remains a motionless wooden monument to another time. Yet, despite her physical inactivity over the years, the Moyie has been far from passive. Since the steamboat's grounding in 1958, nearly $1 million worth of activity in the form of repairs, maintenance, and full-scale restoration have been lavished upon her. The result? The SS Moyie, once destined to be destroyed, is now recognized as both a provincial and national historic landmark, a source of pride to all Canadians, but especially so for those in the small village of Kaslo, including Jack Morris, whose vision made it possible, and who's always willing to give a grand tour. On this day, our brief tour would begin on the Moyes' main deck.
You know, this is very significant because I don't know where else you would find a paddle wheel boat today that you've got the motors all intact like this. And to people that know steam engineering and that, they just love it. They get in this section and they never want to leave. They just reminisce about it. Up at the front end there, we have the big boiler and the firebox. And they turned around and got up the steam down there. The steam came down this long, big tube you see here, the insulated tube. And the engineer could open the valve, how much steam he wanted, how fast he wanted to go here. The steam went from there, down there, into that unit there, and over to that unit there. This is the galley, and where they had nearly all were Chinese cooks. And in this corner here was a dumbwaiter where everything they prepared then went upstairs up into the pantry up above where the people working up there would put out on the tables. This is the freight area down here, and not only would we carry cars and buggies and apples and cherry crates and everything. Over in this corner they had a fence they used to put up, and that's where you used to see the sheep and the cows and the horses. And of course, that was a big thrill of the kids, was to come downstairs and see all the animals.
With our tour of the main deck now completed, our next stop was the Moyes Saloon deck for passengers.
Now, we're in the ladies' salon, and the boat was divided into three sections: the ladies' salon here, the dining room behind you, and the men's salon up at the front. So the men weren't allowed back here. But then the ladies had the nicest section. It was even the color schemes in those days, you know, they really knew how to make it look fancy. We're restoring, we've got this room pretty well restored, except the bench going around here. And this fall we hope to re-cushion all these. These were little staterooms all the way around here. If you were going on the longer trip, you could rent a cabin and then lay down whenever you want, have a little rest. Deceiving when you first look at it, but those bunks are actually 6 feet long in there. This is the old luggage rack, quite an assortment of luggage. And a carrier for the animals. This is the purser's office. He saw the tickets, collected the money, and he would remind you where you were to get off. Do we go up to the captain's wheelhouse? When you were young, that was the one place you wanted to go, was go up and be able to steer the ship.
Not everyone who visits the Moyes has the opportunity to see the ship's pilot house. So without hesitation, Jack's gracious offer to tour the Moyes' upper deck was accepted.
This is where it was quite a treat as a young person to be able to come up into the pilot house and have the captain lift you up and blow his whistle. That was a real treat, was to blow the whistle. That was a real thrill when you were a boy to be able to blow that whistle. And it also allowed you to steer, because when you're out in the main part of the lake, he'd let you take the wheel. You thought that was a real thrill to be able to, you're steering this great big ship. You might hardly ever turn the wheel, but you hang it onto it anyway.
Little did Jack Morris know then, as a young boy clinging with delight to the captain's wheel, that holding on to the Moyes would later become a lifelong ambition. And as he quietly peered out the Moyes' pilot house, ending our tour of the world's oldest surviving sternwheeler, you could sense Jack's tremendous satisfaction for a preservation effort that is still ongoing.
I don't think we'll ever be totally done. You know, as we get something completed, something we started 10 years ago, it now has to be redone. But it's a great satisfaction to me. I mean, it was something that we dreamt that we'd like to save it. I never dreamt just how far we were going to go with it. All I knew is we wanted to save this boat.
If you have a topic for Northwest Profiles, send it to KSPS TV, 3911 South Regal, Spokane, Washington, 99223. Northwest Profiles is a presentation of KSPS Public Television.